When Dan Bongino accepted the position of FBI Deputy Director earlier this year, the appointment sent shockwaves through Washington. Rarely had someone so publicly hostile to the Bureau, and so steeped in partisan media culture, been elevated to one of its most powerful leadership roles. Now, less than a year later, Bongino has doubts that he will resign next month, closing a turbulent chapter marked by internal clashes, unmet expectations, and the collision of rhetoric with reality. Bongino confirmed his decision in a brief statement on social media, saying he was grateful for the opportunity to serve with purpose. The post offered no explanation for his departure, no specific date, and no clarity about what comes next. Yet his exit had been widely anticipated inside and outside the Bureau, following months of tension between FBI leadership, the Justice Department, and the political base that once viewed him as a champion. President Donald Trump, responding to questions earlier in the day, struck a casual tone. "Dan did a great job," Trump said. "I think he wants to go back to his show." The remark underscored what many critics had argued from the beginning, that Bongino's identity as a media figure never fully faded once he entered government service. His resignation now stands as one of the most prominent departures of Trump's second administration, coming amid widespread upheaval at the FBI. The Bureau has faced firings of career personnel, leadership shakeups, and sustained criticism over management decisions, particularly surrounding Director Kash Patel, whose use of government resources and social media commentary has drawn scrutiny. For Bongino, the resignation marks the end of a tenure that was brief, controversial, and emblematic of a broader struggle over the future of American law enforcement institutions in an era of intense polarization. An unconventional appointment from the start. Traditionally, the FBI's deputy director role has been filled by a career agent, someone steeped in the Bureau's culture, procedures, and internal command structure. The position is less about public messaging and more about managing day-to-day operations, overseeing investigations, and maintaining institutional continuity. Dan Bongino was none of that. Though he had served previously as a New York City police officer and a Secret Service agent, he had never worked inside the FBI. Nor had Director Kash Patel, another outsider appointed as part of Trump's effort to overhaul what he and his allies described as a weaponized federal law enforcement apparatus. What Bongino did bring was a massive following. For years, he had been one of the most prominent conservative podcast hosts in the country, using his platform to criticize the FBI, the Justice Department, and what he described as a corrupt national security establishment. He regularly questioned official narratives, amplified conspiracy theories, and framed himself as a truth-teller battling hidden forces within the federal government. To Trump's most loyal supporters, Bongino's appointment felt like a long-overdue reckoning. To career officials inside the FBI, it felt like a warning shot. From firebrand podcaster to federal executive, Bongino entered office in March with expectations that were both expansive and contradictory. On one hand, he was tasked with running one of the most complex law enforcement agencies in the world. On the other, he was seen by many supporters as a reformer who would expose alleged cover-ups, deliver long-promised revelations, and hold internal enemies accountable. From the beginning, those roles proved difficult to reconcile. As a media personality, Bongino had been paid for his opinions, often sharp, speculative, and confrontational. As deputy director, he was responsible for investigations grounded in evidence, legal standards, and institutional restraint. The transition was not smooth. Almost immediately, Bongino turned to social media to communicate directly with Trump's base, reassuring them that long-standing grievances were finally being addressed. He spoke publicly about renewed focus on unresolved controversies. The pipe bombs placed in Washington on the eve of January 6th, the leak of a draft Supreme Court opinion in 2022, and the discovery of cocaine inside the White House during the Biden administration. Each message seemed designed to calm supporters who believed the federal government had deliberately ignored or concealed the truth. But behind the scenes, frustration grew, both among career agents uneasy with the politicization of ongoing investigations and among activists who felt progress was too slow. The Epstein files and a public reversal no issue proved more emblematic of Bongino's dilemma than the case of Jeffrey Epstein. For years, Bongino had openly challenged the official finding that Epstein, the wealthy financier facing federal sex trafficking charges, died by suicide in a New York jail cell in 2019. On his podcast, he cast doubt on the ruling, suggesting foul play and hinting at powerful interests working to suppress the truth. Those claims earned him widespread attention and loyalty from audiences already skeptical of government institutions. Then came the reversal. After assuming his role at the FBI and reviewing the case materials, Bongino appeared on Fox News and delivered a blunt assessment. "I've seen the whole file. He killed himself." The statement stunned many of his followers. For critics, it confirmed what they had long argued, that his earlier claims were driven more by speculation than evidence. For supporters, it felt like betrayal. The fallout was swift. Online forums and social media channels erupted with accusations that Bongino had either been compromised or silenced. Some suggested he was covering up the very truth he once claimed to pursue. Inside the FBI, the moment underscored the limits of rhetoric. Access to information had not produced the explosive revelations many expected, only a reaffirmation of official conclusions. The Epstein reversal was not an isolated incident. As recently as last year, Bongino had suggested that the pipe bombs discovered near the Democratic and Republican National Committee offices on the eve of the January 6th Capitol riot were part of an inside job. He alleged a massive cover-up shielding the true perpetrators. Those claims followed him into office. Earlier this month, the FBI arrested a 30-year-old Virginia man in connection with the pipe bomb investigation. Authorities said there was no evidence tying the suspect to the federal government. Yet skepticism persisted, especially among those who remembered Bongino's earlier rhetoric. When confronted with his past comments during a Fox News interview, Bongino acknowledged the shift. "I was paid in the past for my opinions," he said. "That's clear. One day I'll be back in that space, but that's not what I'm paid for now." The comment was candid and revealing. It highlighted the central tension of his tenure. A man known for questioning institutions now tasked with defending one. Clashes with the Justice Department. Behind the scenes, Bongino's relationship with the Justice Department grew strained. The most visible flashpoint came last summer, following a tense meeting at the White House with Attorney General Pam Bondi. The confrontation followed an abrupt announcement by the FBI and DOJ that they would not release additional records related to the Epstein investigation. The decision enraged activists who had expected transparency, and Bongino found himself caught in the middle. Soon after the meeting, he went silent on social media, an unusual move for someone known for constant engagement. Speculation about his future intensified when far-right activist Laura Loomer, a Trump ally, posted that Bongino was seriously thinking about resigning and had taken time off to consider his next steps. While Bongino never publicly confirmed those claims, questions about his longevity only grew. Bongino's resignation does not occur in isolation. The FBI has experienced significant disruption under Trump's second term, including the firing of career agents and the appointment of leadership figures with limited institutional experience. Director Kash Patel has faced criticism for using a government aircraft for personal travel and for posting about active investigations on social media, actions that critics argue blur ethical and operational boundaries. In August, the administration took the unusual step of appointing a co-deputy director, former Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. The move was widely interpreted as an attempt to stabilize leadership amid internal strain, or to hedge against Bongino's possible departure. Now, with Bongino set to leave, questions remain about the Bureau's direction, morale, and independence. Expectations versus reality. For many of Bongino's supporters, his resignation confirms a bitter truth. Structural change is harder than slogans. They expected swift reform, dramatic disclosures, and accountability for perceived abuses of power. Instead, they saw delays, institutional resistance, and conclusions that often mirrored those reached before Trump returned to office. For critics, the episode reinforces the danger of politicizing law enforcement. They argue that installing media personalities into operational leadership roles undermines public trust and creates unrealistic expectations that cannot be met within the bounds of law and evidence. Bongino himself appeared to acknowledge this divide in his farewell message, offering gratitude but no triumphalism. What comes next? Trump's comment that Bongino may go back to his show suggests a likely return to media, where opinions, speculation, and audience engagement once again take center stage. Whether Bongino resumes his role as a conservative commentator or charts a new path, his brief tenure at the FBI will likely be remembered as a cautionary tale about the limits of outsider reform in deeply entrenched institutions. It also raises broader questions about the future of federal law enforcement in a political climate where trust is fragile and narratives travel faster than facts. As the FBI prepares for yet another leadership transition, one thing is clear. The struggle between politics, perception, and professional law enforcement is far from over.